Welcome to the many interpretations of Troodon, a troodontid that lived in the late Cretaceous of what is now North America. This one has been requested before, like quite a bit. At the very least, this family of dinosaurs have been requested. And due to recent events, I figured it was a good time to do it. What are those recent events I'm talking about? Well, first, I'll give you some context. I'm going to give you like a brief, abridged history of the genus of Troodon. So if you want to skip that and get straight to the list, there is a timestamp down below, so just follow that. So in order to fully understand this, we need to start from the beginning. Troodon was first discovered all the way back in 1855, although it wasn't officially identified as a dinosaur until 1877. Now, here's where the tricky thing comes in. Troodon was completely identified off of a single tooth. A very strange tooth, albeit. It's a very strange tooth that is very unique amongst dinosaurs. So it is completely fair to say that this is a brand new dinosaur. But the problem is that it's known from just a tooth. Very, very little. And because of that, you don't have the rest of the skeleton to compare with future findings. And as a result, a lot of messes happened. Taxonomically speaking, Troodon basically became a wastebasket taxon, where a lot of dinosaurs that were attributed to the family of Troodontidae were simply just looped within the genus of Troodon, and it all became extremely messy and just very difficult to follow. Until 2017, when a team of researchers said basically that Troodon should not be considered a valid genus, and this sort of like kind of cleaned everything up. And so most of the fossils that were assigned to the genus of Troodon were re-identified as Stenonychosaurus or Latinovenatrix until 2025, this year, when another team of researchers stepped forward saying that they likely identified a neotype for Troodon. If you don't know, the neotype is basically like the second best specimen that can speak for a genus. You have the holotype and then the neotype. So in this instance, the holotype would be the tooth, and the neotype would be this new skeleton that they have recently described. This skeleton remained undescribed and had already been found for a long time. But what they did was they finally described the skeleton, and they argued that this should speak for Troodon. And if it is the neotype for Troodon, that means the Troodon is finally valid. Of course, a lot of this is still shaky, and the neotype, I believe, does need to still be accepted. And who knows what's going to happen in the future, as other scientists are likely to argue against it. We'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see. So definitely keep that in mind while watching this video. I'm gonna, make sure the timestamp happens before this window. But basically, what I'm going to be doing for this is looking all at like a lot of media depictions that call themselves Troodon. And we're going to be just showcasing those and talking about them as if they represent the Troodon genus, even though some of these had later been renamed as Latinovenatrix or Stenonychosaurus. So just keep that in mind. We're not going to be looking at Troodontidae as a whole because that would be a lot. There's a lot of depictions out there that can be considered like Pectinodon or just, any range of troodontids out there. So I'm going to try to limit it as much as possible. This is certainly the most interesting style of video I've done so far. Like I haven't, with waters so shaky. So certainly keep that in mind. But as of right now, it seems likely that Troodon is valid again. So that's what we're going to be going off of. Without further ado, let's get started. Starting off with the Magic School Bus. We have these sort of purple-looking Troodons with some reddish striping. They look interesting. They certainly look interesting. They have sort of like an overall slender build, an elongated snout, and yeah, they kind of fit. They fit what you would probably expect from a Troodon, especially from this point in time, which of course is earlier. That being the lack of feathers. There's really not much else I can say about that, but they certainly do look interesting. Next up is Paleo World Troodon. This one certainly looks like a Troodon that I grew up with the whole like shiny skin, just the overall smooth texture, the weird looking head, and these huge bulging eyes. Now, troodontids typically do have these large eyes, and troodontids do typically have like relatively large brains compared to their body size. This leads many researchers to believe that Troodontidae, the family of Troodontidae, represents some pretty intelligent dinosaurs, though something like intelligence is very difficult to measure in fossils alone. A lot of researchers have tried, but a lot of these results are, kind of shaky at best. Just know that it is something that is proposed. But anyway, I've seen this style of Troodon a lot in books and things like that. But there is something that certainly needs to be brought up with Paleo World here, and that is like the humanoid Troodon. I don't know exactly how this originated. This actually might have originated in this documentary itself in Paleo World. Basically, what the humanoid Troodon did, what it does is ponder the question, what would have happened to dinosaurs if they had not gone extinct? Is it possible that that they would go the way of man? If we're talking in an evolutionary sense, most likely not. The chances of them looking like humans in terms of their overall anatomy are so incredibly slim that it just probably didn't happen. That probably wouldn't happen. Of course, they used Troodon as a basis because, again, troodontids are thought to be these relatively smart animals. Anyway, look at this thing. It's a human with like a reptilian skin, of course. It doesn't wear clothes for some reason. That'd be kind of weird. But it's got that reptilian face and it still has some features from the other troodontid the other troodon that we saw. Very strange. And I definitely had to mention it. It is certainly something, isn't it? It is certainly something. Now, Dinosaur Planet. This looks great. Look at this. They got feathers. Their head looks pretty good. They do have those decently large eyes. And yeah, so far, this is a very good depiction, especially with the inclusion of feathers. That is a very good step in the correct direction. So more of that, please. Prehistoric Park. We lost the feathers. What happened? They were right there. I had them on my hand. Why? Yeah, Prehistoric Park does have featherless troodons. Um, the build looks pretty typical from what we've been seeing so far. Slender neck, narrow snout, and just a slender build. Very gracile in general. The colors on this one are very cool. I know that an artist that I follow like reconstructed them to look like accurate. Let me see if I can find him because I follow him on Instagram and absolutely love his work. Let's see if I can do that. Yes, here he is. Art_Garcia_drawn paint. Definitely go and follow him. He does incredible work. I just had to confirm that it was him. But here is the Troodon that he did. Look how awesome that looks. And that really goes to show just how really cool those colors are in Prehistoric Park. It's just, it kind of shows up on like a dated model. Well, kind of dated because Dinosaur Planet came out before this and they put feathers on their Troodon. Regardless, his looks really cool. And Prehistoric Parks does look really cool too, just in a sort of vintage way, I suppose. After that, Nova Arctic Dinosaurs Troodon. No feathers. No feathers. We're going back in time now. It's got that same slender gracile build that we've been seeing quite a bit. Large eyes, although they're really bulging here. The colors are kind of cool. And the striping is very classic dinosaur portrayal, Ice Age 3, once again, no feathers. How unfortunate. Anyway, we see these guys, very goofy. They got these type of like googly eyes, and I really like the sounds they make. Colors are really cool as well. What I like is that they're eating this sort of, I think it's a vegetable. They're eating a vegetable. What's interesting about that is there is a chance that troodontids were omnivorous. And that mainly stems from that tooth I was talking about before. It's a very strange tooth, and it seems like it could possibly have some adaptation that would be suited for eating both plants and animals. So there's a chance, there's a possibility that troodontids are omnivorous, but I don't really know where we sit with that. That is just a really cool thought to have, and maybe Ice Age 3 predicted the future, unless we've been thinking about that for a while, which is a huge possibility. Dinosaur Train. I think that most people would know about the conductor. So we have like more of a yellow coloration. Of course, he still lacks feathers, the thin snouts, and yeah, everything else that's mostly been matching up. Of course, he does have a little bit of a conductor's outfit. Very cute. March of the Dinosaurs. This one looks good. It has feathers, as I've been asking for forever. The colors are cool. Eyes are huge. The head looks pretty interesting. And the whole body seems to decently match up what we would expect from it. This shot in particular, I think, looks really cool. And it also looks like the hands are facing the proper way, that being the palms facing each other rather than the palms facing down. So I like it. Oh, this is a very cool shot. Yeah, that's what I like to say. That is awesome. Planet Dinosaur. I believe we're back to featherless. Which is, I think these are featherless. I can't make out if these are feathers or not, or if these are just interesting patterns on scales. I can't tell. They're holding their hands like they have feathers, like they're kind of folded, but they're not. I don't think they have those proper feathers on their arms, so it just kind of looks strange. It kind of reminds me of the Atrociraptors from Dominion, where they hold their hands like they have feathers, but they don't actually have feathers, which is interesting. That's what this reminds me of, but the whole build looks pretty decent and what you would probably expect from this time. Also, yes, Troodontids did have a sickle claw similar to that of dromaeosaurs, which is pretty cool. Walking with dinosaurs, of course, the 2013 version. So this is the cause for Patchy like getting the hole in his frill. This Troodon bites onto him. This Troodon looks cool. The coverage of feathers looks pretty good. I just wish that they covered the head a little bit more and went up to the snout. Overall, I think that would look a lot more realistic, given like in comparison to birds. I really like the sort of crown it has on its head, and the colors look fantastic, especially with that sort of vaguely blue head with the body that is a lot more dull. Looks really good, and I really do like it. Dino Dan, you have more of like a green coloration. Kind of reminds me of primitive war, like raptors, with how green it is. The same can be said for Dino Dana. They both vary a little bit. I think that the in Dino Dana, they look a little bit more humanoid in their eyes. Maybe that's a reference to the humanoid Troodon. Oh no. They look cool though. I love the feathers. I very much appreciate the feathers, and I think that I think that they look pretty decent. I think they look pretty all right. Amazing Dino World also has a pretty good one. Feather coverage again looks pretty good. The colors are a standout for me on this one. You have what kind of looks like grayish blue with some reds as well. Head looks good, the eyes look good, and the rest of the body looks pretty good. The babies also look pretty good too. I like their different feathers compared to the adult. This is also a documentary. I think most of these have kind of like showcased the, quote unquote intelligence of Troodons. This one shows it by having the Troodon kind of like lures in a fish with a bug, and then it snatches it up. I don't think that's too out of the realm of possibility. Like it might have happened, but of course, again, it's very difficult to deduce from the available fossil material that we have. Then we have Dead Sounds Dinosauria. Look how amazing these ones look. Of course, this is an Alaskan Troodontid. I don't know specifically if the Alaskan Troodontid would be considered Troodon, but I wanted to include this because it looks great. It looks incredible. Look at that. Those feathers, that's exactly what I'm talking about in terms of the coverage of feathers, the way that they go up onto the snout like that, the way that the feathers fit on the hands, and the colors too look really, really cool. Also really cool to see it go up against a Nanosaurus to defend its young. This is just an incredible depiction right here. And like that stripe around the eye, that's just, yeah. So far, this one is probably my favorite. Certainly makes sense. It just looks really, really cool. Prehistoric Planet, again, another Alaskan Troodontid, which I think we've actually looked at a few different Alaskan Troodontids, and I just haven't started bringing it up until now. Whoops. Regardless, this is what it looks like. Looks very good. Colors look awesome. And again, with that feather coverage, this is what I'm talking about in terms of the feather coverage. And once again, with that sort of feather crown that it has going on, looks really, really cool. And again, we see like a little instance of intelligence. We did with Dead Sounds as well. We saw a little bit of intelligence there. We see some intelligence here with it spreading fire, which is something that is inspired from some modern day birds who have spread fire to specific locations to catch prey, which is overall very interesting stuff. And it's really kind of interesting to think if dinosaurs did something similar, or non-avian, non-bird dinosaurs did something similar. Apparently, 65 had a Troodontid, and it looked like this. So they're the ones that went after the Jackapil, which, yeah, that's a Jackapil, apparently. We're back to the no feathers, although they do have these sort of like little quills on top of their head and maybe on the rest of the body. But they have that sort of build that we've seen quite a bit so far. Slim neck, that the head looks like that, and the huge eyes. Then we have a few portrayals in Jurassic Park video games. I'm not really going to talk about them too much because a lot of them have the same idea. So as per usual with a lot of the other Jurassic franchise games, I'm simply just going to be like naming them and having them on screen, except for the ones that I do want to say a little bit more about. So yeah, let's do it. The Lost World, Jurassic Park Sega Genesis, Jurassic Park 3 Park Builder, Jurassic Park Survival. Quite like this one. I really like the colors on it. Jurassic Park the game. This one is, of course, incredibly iconic. It's known as Troodon pectinodon. It's kind of like fictional. It was kind of like, mishmashed because, of course, pectinodon is its own genus. It is a genus of troodontid. We even see a pectinodon in Prehistoric Planet 2. But I'm including this because the first name is the genus name, the generic name is Troodon. So, I'm sure I would get comments if I didn't include it anyway. So yeah, they look like this. They're very terrifying. They have these huge eyes, and their heads are quite large too compared to what we've typically seen. They have these sort of quills on their back, as well as like a really cool red coloration on underneath, and some sort of gray coloration with some spots on top. Also, their eyes glow. It's quite terrifying, and they're venomous. Troodon, of course, was not a venomous dinosaur, but it's certainly interesting to see here. Jurassic Park builder. Lego Jurassic World, the game, which is, of course, basically just the Gallimimus minifigure, but made gray to match Jurassic Park, the game. Jurassic World, the game. Okay, in Jurassic World Evolution 2, of course, we get these little sons of guns right here that are a very classic kind of retro look at the animal. Like, they look a lot like how Troodon would look in books that I had growing up, especially when you give it more of like a green coloration. But you have like that kind of large head, huge bulging eyes, and more of a slender build, and of course the lack of feathers. Kind of sounds like they make little Compsognathus noises. That's something I didn't know about. They're also venomous in this, and as I mentioned before, Troodon was not a venomous dinosaur. That is yet another thing that does not apply to it. As of right now, we have no evidence for venomous dinosaurs, and yes, there are ways to tell in the skeleton. Yeah, that is the Jurassic World Evolution 2 Troodon. Jurassic World Alive and Jurassic World Primal Ops. In Ark, we have this one. I like it. The feather coverage is not quite there, especially on the arms, but I quite like it. I like the colors, and I like the texturing of the feathers. Not too much else I can say about it. I just like it. And then the Isle Troodon. So these are reverting back to like the classic depictions that we've seen, which is something that the Isle does a lot, kind of like brings you more classic interpretations of animals, which is, their overall style. So their heads really match that style. They got the slim bodies, and of course they are featherless. Some cool colors on them though. I think that they look quite interesting, and they are quite retro. And finally, an honorable mention, because I know that if I didn't at least mention it, someone would bring it up. Latinavenatrix from Path of Titans. I wasn't looking at Latinavenatrix on this list. It was mostly just, I explained at the beginning of the video. So yeah, those were the depictions of Troodon. There are probably way more than that. Keep that in mind. I'm not looking at every single depiction. That's not really been the goal of this series. It was mainly just to look at some of the most notable ones and the ones that I had the most to say. I do try to include as many as I possibly can, but that's not entirely what my goal is, because otherwise I just get a little bit too repetitive and whatnot, and it just pads the video a little bit too much, if you ask me. But what did you guys think? What's your favorite depiction? And are there any depictions that I did not talk about that you want people to know about? Be sure to let them know in the comment section down below. Also, thank you so much to all my patrons. You guys are absolutely incredible, as well as my channel members. You guys are also incredible. If you are interested in becoming a patron or a channel member, of course, those links are down below. All of your support really does mean a lot to me, and I appreciate each and every one of you. But yeah, until next time, be sure to check out all my other social media. The link is down below for that stuff. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you guys so much for watching, and have an awesome day.